He's Dan LeBatard. Dan LeBatard is highly questionable. ESPN Radio, Miami Herald columnist. He joins us now. Before I get to Pat Riley Unplugged, let me ask you about the coverage of the Redskins name. What did you think of the media's performance yesterday with that?
Well, I mean, we're getting better and better at this. You know, a lot of people are wondering why now, media? Why is the media now trumpeting this cause and talking about it again and again and again? And I would say to you, why do we cover steroids the way that we do now and we didn't while McGuire and Sosa were doing what they were doing? We know more, and we realize that we were kind of idiotic in the past, and what you have here is you're giving a voice to the little person. Like, everyone kind of realizes that this is wrong. Like, you can't get consensus on anything in sports, Dan, on anything. But on this one, you could come pretty close to consensus that this isn't the right thing to, we're talking about human scalps. We're talking about the way that people paid for things in the past was with Redskins. They were worth something. Like, that's not cool. Like, we're supposed to be more involved than that. Like, this is actually an easy one for the media to take up.
But can you do it in a way without coming off as an activist?
Is there a way to instigate change ever without coming off as an activist? I mean, I think people on the other side are always going to view you as an activist if you're doing something that they don't want you to do. But when the majority is out there, like, I don't think you can worry about whether you're perceived as an activist or not. There's right and there's wrong, and this one's pretty easy. Like, I don't hear a lot of people on the other side saying it's not easy, and the people I do hear on the other side saying that it's easy are, they're not Native Americans. They're not the offended. They're not the aggrieved party.
Should we be more bothered by Daniel Snyder's approach to this or Commissioner Goodell?
Oh, man. I mean, Snyder's an easier target, right?
Yeah.
Snyder's technically the boss of Goodell. But what you've got in Snyder is it's just the rich, spoiled guy who's arrogant. And in his explanation of this is one of the things, and it's not irrelevant, Dan. Like, we have not heard from Roger Goodell in a way that bothers us.
Yeah.
He hasn't given us anything in the way of spewed arrogance or spewed defiance. Daniel Snyder is telling us we're wrong, and he's telling us that he doesn't care that we're wrong, that he's got the money to make us stay wrong. Goodell's not doing that.
Yeah, I hate when somebody tells me how, a party is supposed to think, and they're not part of that party, but they want to tell us how you're supposed to think. You shouldn't be bothered by this. That was 200 years ago. We gave you casinos. Like, the stuff you get, you go, wait a minute here. This just comes down to what is right and wrong with a name. It took us a while. If you look for our evolution, how we evolve with certain topics and races and religions. If this was a new team, Danny, and all of a sudden you say, I got our nickname, we're going to be the Redskins. What do you think the commissioner would say then?
Yeah, Dan, our country, Dan, is almost literally built on not caring what Native American thinks. Like, we're almost literally built on that concept. Like, I would love to see a Native American voice. Who's the voice?
That's the problem. You don't have a big name, and I think that we're attracted to that big name. Okay, now I'm going to listen. Instead of what the actual subject is, it's the person who's delivering the subject.
Well, we don't have a big name, but what you have now is media pressure. And in the absence of a big name, that will do. Like, media pressure can be a pretty strong thing. If we continue, we've learned from the most punitive commissioner in the history of sports that he doesn't like image stains. And if we stay on this, and if there is more and more media activism, if you will, if there's more of that, and all of a sudden more people are just referring to them as the Washington racists or just the Washington team, and then all of a sudden, you've got the trademark office, the U.S. Trademark Office, doing what it did the other day. Like, there is pressure being bought here in a way that's not small.
He's Dan LeBatard, ESPN Radio, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Pat Riley, I wasn't going to watch the press conference, and then all of a sudden he did this.
You want to trend something? I'm pissed, okay?
What happened yesterday, Dan?
Well, Pat Riley's undefeated at the press conference. Like, he does the press conference really, really well. What he did for 52 minutes yesterday, while eloquent, he's a poet and he's a philosopher, and he's also, later in life becoming more, he's sounding more and more like an aging televangelist, because he's, my father's age. But he brought the fastball yesterday. I would say to you, though, that none of it matters. It's 52 minutes of nothing.
I agree. That's why I was wondering. What was it? Yeah. What did he? Who was he yelling at, or who was he delivering or preaching to?
Well, I would say LeBron. I would say if you look at the wording in there, like, you don't look for the exit. You got to have the guts to stay. Like, he was talking to LeBron, but when I say none of it matters, it's because either LeBron wants to stay or he doesn't. It doesn't matter what Pat Riley's saying in a press conference. Miami loved that press conference because it's the Godfather. It's the Godfather being eloquent and reprimanding everybody and telling everybody that he crushed the press conference. He absolutely did. But who cares, right?
Well, LeBron's exit interview set up this press conference for Riles?
Well, he does this every year, but the exit interview was very brief. LeBron wanted to get out of there, and Riley said so. He said that LeBron wasn't very interested in being around. He was tired, and he wanted to get out of there. And, Pat Riley, it's a novel thing when Pat Riley's sitting there speaking for 52 minutes when we haven't heard from him all season because he's very much interested in this Miami Heat one-voice thing, and so he doesn't want to get in Spoelstra's way. And he was quieter this year than he's been any year since I've known him in 19 years. But he decided to do this this way, because they need to keep LeBron here.
Okay, what does this come down to with LeBron's immediate future? What's it hinge on?
Well, I would say this to you, Dan, and I understand why the transaction has replaced the action in sports, and everyone is looking at this as hope trafficking. He can immediately make your team feel like Miami did for the last 4 years. But what I would ask you and anybody who has him leaving is where? Give me the better option. Give me the option that's offering something that resembles proof. Give me the option that is offering relationships that he's built with Pat Riley, with the coaching staff, with the players. You could look at a roster and you could say Houston. Okay, Houston looks good. Dwight Howard, James Harden, they're younger. And that does look good. But does he want to play in Houston for a bunch of people that he doesn't know and take the image hit that he takes from being, again, the wandering nomad mercenary? I keep asking people, what's the better option? Okay, maybe Chris Paul. Maybe he goes to the Clippers, even though that sale isn't complete, and they'd have to trade Blake Griffin to get him because he's not going to. They don't have the room for him. Okay. I just don't see the better option.
Yeah, I don't see him leaving. Plus, he does have a conscience, though, and maybe that's what Riles is playing into. Social media does get to LeBron. He does listen. He hears, and if he left again, I just think that there'd be no turning back. He would realize that, hey, I got to embrace sort of I'm the bad guy here, and I'm chasing championships. So you got to stay. You got to stay.
Well, but I would say that if he does indeed leave, then you would know that something was really fractured to make him overcome what you just said, whether it be the relationship with Dwayne Wade or whether he thinks Dwayne Wade is spent. And by the way, that one's overstated. I know that 7 for 25 in the last 2 games and looking really unathletic and like his old man game. I get that. But he was 19-5-5 on 54% shooting this year. I understand they didn't play that much. He missed a third of the season, but 19-5-5 on 54% shooting, the most efficient shooting guard in the league, that's not quite spent.
I'll call you when more trouble arises, Danny. Thank you.
I know you will.
Thank you, Dan.
See you later.
I know you will. When something's trending, I'll call you. Dan Le Batard.